are. Absolutely.
Okay, it's 3 o'clock, I'm gonna go.
Okay.
Everybody, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is Thursday, April 21st, 2016. Time for the meeting of the Gateway Services Community Development District Board of Supervisors meeting. We have a quorum. Would you please stand and join us in the pledge to our flag and country? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. If you have a noise-making machine like this, please put it on mute for the balance of the meeting. If you wish to speak to the board this evening, please fill out a request and get it to the manager in the bright shirt to my right. Mr. Manager, do we have folks who would like to speak to the board this evening?
Yes, sir. We have Larry Miner, repair of the erosion on the lakes.
Larry Miner, would you please come to the podium, state your name and address?
Larry Miner, I'm at 12551 Venetia Drive over in Walden Lakes. And concerned about the erosion on the lakes, very real quickly, about 2 years ago, Scott from the CD came out and looked at it with me. I was concerned about the drains that have been put in and kind of the safety of somebody walking along there and tripping. And he at that time said, oh, well, you know, we're examining that right now, and by the fall, we're gonna be doing something about it. Well, that was 2 years ago, and obviously nothing's been done yet. It continues to erode. Today, just by chance, the lawn doctor had been out looking at something else with me, and there's an area where there's about 3 feet of the ground between where it has eroded of grass that's there now, and then a kind of a swale that dips down that was put in along with that. You walk down in that swale area and you sink in 2 feet. It's like there's nothing under the grass at all. He said, with the rainy season coming up, that's all going to be gone by the end of the rainy season. So that's basically 5 feet of my yard that's going to be gone by the end of this rainy season. I kind of had a thought that there's going to be more of that happening. The sooner that something can be done with that, I think would be the better. I know that the rainy season was rainy this winter, and that was a problem. It is down now, so where it could be done now if it was going to be done, but sooner the better. I mean, again, another 5 feet of my yard is going to be gone by the end of the rainy season. With that, like I'm on 126, which I think is the next one that's scheduled to be done, I believe.
Do you know what the number of your lake is?
126, I believe, right?
It's 126?
I believe that's it. Is that right, Dolores? Yeah. And I believe, just looking at, a woman from here that checks everything was out, and she showed me the sheet that they had with the schedule and everything, and it showed 126 is the next one to be done. But again, if the rainy season's coming up, let's have to do it then. If we have another rainy season and then another year is gone, we have the rainy winter like we did this year, then what? Again, by the end of this rainy season, it's going to be a problem for me. So that's basically my comment.
Well, thank you for calling this to our attention. The fact that it's next on the list is about as good as we can do. I understand your problem, and we're not holding it up for any other reason than
And if any of you would be willing to come out and take a look, I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. I'd be happy to do that.
Give me your address again.
12551 Venetia. There, and they basically just asked to get going as quickly as possible and let us know what's going on. Keep us posted.
Thank you very much. Mr. Manager?
Yes, sir. Mr. Phil Measy, and a recommendation on a new PPAC committee member.
Phil Measy, 9296 Trias Drive, and I'm in Pelican Preserve. I'm here to represent it this afternoon, PPAC. As most of you, I think, are probably aware, we have a member, Herb Freeze, who has tendered his resignation on PPAC. So we went through a process of putting out a candidate call in the community. We got really only one response, but happened to be a very good one. And I hope that you received a copy of the background for Jan Bierce. We think she would be a very, very good addition to the PPAC. She's a person who's had quite a bit of experience that's related. And so what we're asking is that you accept Herb Freeze's resignation and appoint Jan Bierce as a new member of PPAC.
Ladies of the board, you've heard the recommendation from Mr. Maisy. You have, I believe,
I'll make a motion to accept. I guess we need to accept Herb Freeze's
Resignation.
resignation.
and to appoint.
And to appoint her.
I'll second.
Motion and second. Any questions of Phil on this? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And just my apologies, we're always kind of a little out of sync with you folks because we have our meetings and it's hard. It's too late to officially get stuff on your agenda. That's the reason we had to send this to you late. So, thank you.
Thank you, Phil. Do you have nothing else for us?
Do we have to make the motion to accept her?
Right.
Because we just made the motion to accept the resignation.
No.
And to appoint.
And to appoint Jan. We did them both.
Oh, we didn't vote.
You okay? Everybody else okay? Cal?
Yes. The next person to request is Kendra Sutton and irrigation landscaping of the park.
Hi, I'm Kendra Sutton, and I'm the HOA Board President at Cypress Point. And, you know, we all went through some very rough times during the recession, and we had a lot of foreclosures in our neighborhood, like many did. We've been working very, very diligently the last year and a half to turn the neighborhood around, eliminate our foreclosures, and one of our projects was we also invested in $30,000 in landscaping and redid all of our landscaping along Gateway Boulevard, as well as Eagle Point Drive, and into the community. You know, one of my concerns for a long time has been our roadway approaching our entrance. When they, and I'm not sure, I believe it's Mainscapes that puts our flowers in at the end of our, they put flowers in May, and our irrigation has not been working, which I've addressed this with Elle. They did come out, Elle came out, Anthony came out, there were some corrections made, but then it was not working again. And so when I came home and saw that money had been invested in brand new flowers in which they were going to receive no water, immediately I thought to myself, what a waste of money. Sure enough, within 5-6 days, they all started turning brown. I did take pictures of them. They stayed in the ground another 2 weeks until they were completely black, rotten plants, and then they were pulled out. We've now been 2 weeks with absolutely no landscaping while all the rest of Gateway has it. In the meantime, I've seen Mainscapes out there working, and I even stopped and asked the gentleman, are you working on the irrigation? And he said yes. And by the end of today, it'll be working and all this will be turned on. That's been 2 weeks, and I talked to him again on Monday, and he said he was still working on it. And it's still not completed, and there's still a big hole on the side of the road with flags around it, which a lot of people walk their dogs and children play. So my concern is, one, for the area being left like that, two, that it always seems our roadway is just kind of, everybody else gets pine straw, we never get pine straw, and I know this sounds minimal, but when our residents are making such an effort for a small community to try and really turn the place around and put in the effort, and then they drive into that, you know, it gets brought to my attention of, have you addressed this? So I'm here to address that. The other thing, April, thank you so much. I know you've been in correspondence with Rosine Page, and thank you for your help. We have really big problems at that park right there. A lot of overnight parking, drug dealing going on, drug paraphernalia left behind.
Stop.
Yes.
Where precisely are you talking about?
The park that is right behind Gateway Lutheran Church, the Trinity Church. So at Eagle Point Drive at the entrance of Cypress Point. Unfortunately, the basketball courts, you know, they get a lot of attendance. The problem is it's all from people not in Gateway. You know, we've talked when we were out there, a lot of people are coming. It is a public community park, but the problem is they're using it for other things. Friday and Saturday nights are high with cars parking. 2 weeks ago, there was somebody having sex in their car in the park. But the drug paraphernalia and the trash being left behind, the beer bottles. We had one family that their dog was attacked, and It was by somebody who brought their dog, and it doesn't matter that the breed was a pit bull. I know pit bulls that are just as sweet and wonderful. But they had tied it to the bench and not tightly, and the dog came after one of the families and attacked their dog. So this has been going on over a year. We've addressed it a couple times, and we're not getting any results until now one of our residents has had enough because it's taking place behind her home. So she's reached out. I know, April, you're trying to help, but the response we're getting is, well, now we're getting attorneys involved and we're working on this, et cetera. But before somebody gets hurt, or before we have a shooting, or before we have a drug deal go bad in our parking lot and have this upon our community, I'd really like to bring this to your attention personally.
You certainly have.
Yeah.
Has anybody contacted the sheriff's office?
Yes, we have. And, you know, we've asked about that. The residents approached us, why weren't we doing anything? And I said, unfortunately, that's not our property, or we would have handled it by now. They asked about the sheriff, and I said, we need to coordinate through the GSD, that's their property. We can't call on something unless it's an emergency, et cetera. Now, the one resident, she has been instructed. I mean, if people are out there and it's 1 o'clock in the morning and they're blaring their music and there's a party out there in the parking lot under the tree, call the sheriff's department, because now it's a public disturbance. So, you know, her feeling is, though, why is the GSD not doing anything about this when we've all reached out to them and let them know this? And why is it my responsibility to continually be trying to coordinate and send emails and call the sheriff's department? Why, her question is, why isn't something being done on behalf of Gateway Services District?
I don't
And-
think that we were aware. Are we aware?
I wasn't aware of anything.
April has been trying, and I have also been meeting with the sheriff's attorney and captain, sheriff's department, trying to clarify some of the confusion that existed possibly among the sheriff's office as to the property of the district and enforcement of the various laws. I had a very good breakfast meeting about a week or so ago with the sheriff's legal counsel and an assistant counsel to the sheriff, an executive director to the sheriff, to explain to them about what a district is and some more about explaining all that. It was more global than that, involved roads and district facilities, but we're going to be doing some follow-up, April and I, on that issue to ensure that they fully understand that we have district property, we have hours of operation, that loitering, prowling laws should be enforced on district property like it would be on private property, and those kind of issues, so.
Right, and the park is signed, it's closed at dusk.
Mm-hmm.
Quote unquote.
We have the same problems at our pool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have, the sheriff's department, we have their attention and their interest. April, do you agree with that?
I agree. I mean, I think we're doing everything that we can do possibly, and I would be interested in having a conversation with you.
I would love to.
Because you had suggested that if it were under your purview, it would have been handled by now. And so I'd be open to the ideas of how you would resolve this issue.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
if you could leave me your phone number.
Absolutely.
Conversation.
Absolutely. And, you know, one more thing about the park, and there's plenty of other people that need to share is, and I'm aware Rod Sr. is no longer involved, but it goes back as far as when he first joined the board, and there were some residents that had gone to him about the problems at the basketball courts and what it was inviting and bringing into our community that's coming from external. And he did call me. That was also when the decisions were trying to be made about, did we want to take ownership of the road, you know, did we want to do, et cetera. And I just explained to him, we're 124 homes, we're a very little community, there's no way we could ever sustain maintaining that property. So he asked me, what would be your ideas? And he said, I'm not saying this, but if that area was to change over, what do you think would still provide something for the community, but detour what it's currently attracting? And I said to him, I know nothing about pickleball. I've never played in my life, but it is becoming a very large phenomena. It's great among the kids that are getting involved. They now have national championships in Naples, etc. And not only that, the baby boomers love it, and it's great exercise. But I said to him, the court is already there. All we would have to look at is specs and netting, etc., and maybe look at changing it over to something that would create a different type of recreation. Of course, I didn't know enough and I had not done enough research on it to totally stand behind presenting that, but maybe this is the time that we talk about it again, and with all this with Lee County, I'm not sure if this is the time yet either. So I'm just putting it out there.
Is that area lit? Is it?
No.
Maybe lights and,
I think you're still gonna get that element there. It's the activity, it's the
Yeah.
basketball. Not that anything wrong with basketball, but pickleball does draw an entirely different
Yeah.
participant
Yeah.
level.
And I
But
think
if the park closes at
Exactly.
dusk,
Thank you.
it isn't gonna make any difference what's being played there during the day or what the
Yeah,
facility
and I think
use
that, I'm sure
is.
that's probably what
Yeah.
the idea of having a closed park, or have the park closed at dark, because it is so close to neighbors, it's right in their backyards. And that the idea is to not have any park participation after hours for, to be neighborly.
Cause if cars are parking there after dark.
Yes.
And those illegal activities are going on, no matter what the facility is set up, designed to be
I
used
agree with you.
for,
Yeah.
that element would do that.
Yeah. And when we were talking about changing the element, it was about during the day the other problems. The littering, they're drinking beer while they're playing basketball, they're leaving the bottles behind, bringing all their dogs with them and tying them up, and, then we have those problems. They let them go to the bathroom, they don't pick up after them. So those were the issues during the day,
Okay.
and then of course we have the issues. And we also had the problem, to maybe even answer something we did, we had the problem they would leave the basketball court in the summer very hot from playing, and because we don't have a security guard gated entrance, we just have gates, they would walk through the side of the gate and then jump the fence, and they were swimming in our pool. And they were coming over constantly and getting in the pool.
This is a private residence pool?
The community pool within the community, but they were coming in, walking around the gates and jumping the fence. And they would throw chairs in the pool. And so we installed 24/7 cameras and monitoring. And it has live. So a voice comes on and says, you are now in violation and you need to leave the area, etc. And on a second call down, it will tell them the sheriff's department is being called if you do not leave the area immediately. So far, it has been very, very successful. We've not had, and it's detoured it because now they know they can't do it. And I think that's kind of the thing with the park. If we maybe had a sheriff in there a couple nights on a Friday, Saturday or something, because once somebody knows they can go in there, then they tell their friends, and then it's become a party now. So, just food for thought.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Officer Canfield did say that he had been,
He's wonderful.
increasing, his coverage over there and checking more
Mhm.
frequently. But I think perhaps he may be coming just right after, the kids are playing basketball over there.
And I believe, what he told me his shift hours are, he ends like at 5, and then there's, Officer Blake, Barry Blake, and he does a shift change, but he doesn't get to come to our territory or our district as much on his route. So that's what was explained to me. But, I appreciate you hearing this, because now, we can bring some things to light, and maybe have an open discussion or come up with some ideas collaboratively that we can try and resolve it.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, I'll contact.
That's it.
That's it?
That's it.
Okay, we have an organizational matter
Yes, we do.
to discuss. Could give me a second to get my act together. Mr. Attorney, I intend to read this Gateway Services Community Development resolution that's been prepared for everyone and for the record, unless somebody objects to it.
Yes, sir.
The Board of Supervisors for the Gateway Services Community Development District, the district has a vacancy for a new board member. The position is seat 5 and the term expires November 2018. Interested candidates must be a qualified elector of the district. A qualified elector is any person at least 18 years of age who is a citizen of the United States, a legal resident of the state of Florida and of the district, and who is registered to vote with the Lee County Supervisor of Elections. Please send a letter of interest with qualifications and why you would like to serve on the State Gateway Services CDD Board of Supervisors to the Diane Collins at diane.collins@gatewaydistrict.org no later than May 1st, 2016. Please be advised that any submittal is a public record and subject to disclosure. The next Gateway Services CDD meeting is May 5th, 2016 at 3 p.m. at the Gateway office, located here at 13240 Griffin Drive, Fort Myers, Florida, 33913. Mr. Attorney, is there a necessity of adopting this as an official proclamation of the board?
Not a necessity, but if the board wishes to, they can.
I think we should. May I have a motion to adopt?
I'll make the motion.
May I have-
I'll second.
and any questions, clarifications, or anything else? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
3-0.
And Mr. Chairman, along those lines, that one agenda item, is that the item that we're on at the present time? Or with regards to the pro forma board, the acceptance, accepting, acknowledging the creation of the vacancy by the resignation of Mr. Senior? I think that was in the agenda. Item 3A is part of the organizational matters.
Well, somehow or other, I managed to
Flip-flop
scoot
those.
right over that. What's that?
Flip-flop these?
Again, it's, in our opinion, is the vacancy was created upon submittal of the resignation, but this is just for the record to, the pro forma accepting the resignation letter and acknowledging the vacancy created by his letter.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So is our proclamation gonna be posted on the website, or what are we gonna do as far as getting the information out to the
There-
community?
Well, we're gonna have an advertisement in the newspaper, right, Cal?
Yes.
And I'm gonna write a chairman's letter for the website that should go on tomorrow.
Okay, just wanted to make that clear.
Everybody, I hear some grumbling.
Just May 1st just seems awful tight.
May 1st seems awful tight. Well, it's been 2 weeks already. Anybody who's interested, certainly you would think that they'd have some knowledge of it by now.
We wanna give it an adjustment, I mean, we can give it an extra.
Well, then it's gonna move it back 2 weeks to a whole nother meeting.
We have 60 days to.
Well, it's up to us if you think that's important. I thought since we already had 2 weeks, that another one should be plenty for people who are truly interested.
I would think so. I would think so.
Well, it's up to you guys, I don't.
I hear some grumbling. What's going on? Anything I need to know about? No? Okay.
The gentleman has arrived, is what his phone told him.
Oh.
It was announcing the presence of Mr. Newbauer in the parking lot. It was probably.
Well, Mr. Neubauer, we are ready to work on the consent agenda, starting with 4A.
Easy for you to say.
Would you like for us to wait until you get your self together before we continue?
Well, on the consent agenda items, would that also include the report that we just received regarding the condition of all of our, I'm going to call them amenities?
Yes.
That is correct.
It is true.
I could make just a simple statement.
You
Instead,
care to do that now, or do you want us to?
I'd love to.
Please do.
This repeats itself over and over and over and over and over again, and nothing's changed. We hired a brand-new individual with new salary, new benefits, et cetera, and nothing's changed. We still keep getting the same kind of reports, we still keep seeing the same kind of conditions, that I don't think that it requires somebody with Batman or Superman vision to see. We shouldn't be receiving these reports every month. That's my statement.
Sure.
Please.
Please.
April White, your operations manager. That report is something that concerns me because since I'm coming in February, I would like to have the understanding from the board of what the original intent was, because as I'm viewing that report and we're utilizing it within operations, is I'm taking that report as Justin is going out and he's kind of being our eyes on the district and reporting things, bringing them to us as things that we need to repair and address. Some of those things are outside of the scope of our abilities. Some of those things we need to get proposals on and pricing. But we are trying to manage that. But I see it as something ongoing, so I'm trying to figure out, is the expectation of that to go away? Because as we increase the maintenance of the district, there's always going to be something out there for us to deal with. And we have been trying to make some of those things a priority. And one of my first things that I noticed is I kind of need to, and Justin and I had talked about it, we agreed on a revision to the matrix that's in the back as far as summarizing everything that's been going on, because we need to internally, and we haven't yet, but I need to manage staff to prioritize these things so we can target the most important things that we need to address, because staff has other responsibilities as well that we're trying to administer. And so if I can just kind of regroup on what the intent was, because I didn't understand that it was something we expected to go away. Is that what you're looking for? Is all of these things to be resolved and then the report not come to the board again?
Tell me when you're finished.
I'm finished. I'm asking. I'm finished.
For now.
No, not for now. There will always be ongoing, that's not rocket science. The things that are there, such as dirt and stuff in the gutters and et cetera, that's type of stuff, somebody's here working 40 hours a week. There's other things that are there, such as for the last 3 months, an electrical box that hasn't been secured. That's a safety item. Now, whether it's before your ship or whether it's not, I think that if I were in your position, tomorrow morning I'd be sitting with that gentleman with that thing and say, I want a daily report on what you've got accomplished, and I don't ever want to see a 3-page report of things that need to be done unless you've told me why. That stuff has been ongoing for years here. If we've hired an additional person because we needed an additional person, then a lot more of that should be going away. That person should be out there and you should be accounting for it. I don't care if you wanted it. You decide how to manage it, but it all falls back in your lap.
Tell me when you're finished.
I'm done.
Thank you. April, speaking for myself only, I feel that we have made a huge amount of improvement in the last year and a half since we started producing this thing. It's a third of the volume that first was, and the items, for the most part.
You have new glasses,
I
I
do.
see. I saw
I
that.
know.
So I can't even give a
Anyway,
snide comment
there-
about that.
Anyway, there's been a lot of improvement made. I'm not trying to say that you're
We've
wrong on
hired a
everything.
brand new person with a how many $1,000 van to be able to accommodate that task. We've spent how many thousands of dollars? and we're still in that condition. And again, when you talk about safety items and electrical box, speed limit signs that are turned sideways, and somebody can't see that that's something that needs to be done.
Well, what you don't see is all the things that were corrected since the last month. I think a lot of what you said is accurate, but I think you're being unduly critical, frankly. Any other comments?
I'd just like to say that, you know, obviously, half of what's on this matrix is newer stuff, so it's not, you're working on the older stuff, and that's what, it'd be nice to see those things from like 2015, that those get
Yeah,
corrected.
and some of the older things, and I don't recall off the top of my head, but I know we're having some big issues over at the pool building.
Okay.
And those are gonna be bigger issues beyond the scope of staff ability to fix. And we are working on proposals, and at the same time, although we have hired a 40-hour employee, that employee also does have administrative responsibilities, because when he has to go out and give pricing, you know, he's at the desk. He's also taken over some parks responsibilities, and so I'm not sure during this whole reorganization how much conversation has been had, but this report and troubleshooting the items in this report is not his only responsibility. Can we do better? Yes, I think we can. I think there's always room for improvement. And one of the issues that I haven't stopped to address is go back and follow up. We started out, we were going to prioritize this matrix, and he and I were gonna sit down initially when the report is issued. We're gonna prioritize, we're gonna look at things that he can handle on his own versus the things that actually need proposals and outside contracting to fix those things. So that report would also be available to you, because I think there's some things behind the scene that's not being captured as far as why some of these items are stalled, and I would like to broaden that matrix a little bit just so you can see some minor notes that why some of those things are taking so long to fix.
Any other items in the consent agenda that need conversation?
Not for me.
I have one. The contract spreadsheet, at page 20 in our agenda. The first item is legislative and executive branch lobbying by Ramba Consulting LLC. We started that in October. As I recall, it was sold to us as, my words, a slam dunk to be able to get some money from the state government. And we've been paying $2,000 a month for this thing, and we're expected to get some periodic reports, of which I have seen none. And I'm not going to make a particular motion or recommendation this afternoon, but I'd like for the members to consider canceling this contract.
Why aren't you making a motion?
Say again?
Why aren't you making a motion?
Because I am putting it to you without any kind of advance notice. If you would like me to make a motion, I will make a motion.
It was either 2 or 3 meetings ago that we discussed the same issue, and we were promised that we'd be getting a report.
I'd say nothing. You?
And it should come to you. No, it's not coming to me, Bill. It should come to you, and then you or who would disseminate it to us. Bottom line is, we've never seen anything.
And we've gotten nothing from the state.
No, and the lady was called and promised that we were going to, you remember? And we've received nothing. So vacant promises with a payout that our citizens are paying at $2,000 a month doesn't look like being a good steward. That's a good call. It's a good catch.
I would expect that, what I guess I would like to see is at least to get some kind of a report or an explanation from them. Can this be on our next agenda for May 5th? And if we don't receive anything from them, it's pretty clear cut what the next choice is.
Well, I think that we've entered into this 10/15/2015 at $2,000 a month. We haven't gotten any reports, anything. I think that this is something we should stop immediately.
Do we know who have they been in contact with you at all, or has this been
I haven't
handled
in
by?
touch with anybody.
So I'm gonna assume that this was something that
Mr. Senior.
Mr. Senior was handling directly with them, so if there were any reports, maybe they weren't forwarded, shall I say?
I wouldn't go that far, and furthermore,
I mean, I
they
don't
should
know.
know
I
that
mean-
it comes to the Corps, not to an individual, because the Corps signed the contract. That's just business. So having said that, if we wait until here's my only counter. If we wait until the 5th, and we decide on the 5th, we're already into a month of paying them $2,000 to say, oops, well, we'll pay you for this month, but not next month. So possibly you might reconsider your good thoughts and say, unless we have heard by, give a date certain. And that is disseminated to the satisfaction of at least the majority of the board, that we don't go into another month of May, that you've got the authority to simply tell April, we're
Well,
done.
since we entered into the contract on the 15th of the month, and it ends on the 14th of the month, I would
Does it?
assume, yeah, I would assume that it,
Are we sure, though?
What I would suggest is that during the recess, that we obtain or pull up a copy of the contract so we can see what the agreement
That sounds
provides as for the term, the payment, and any termination provisions.
There you go.
I would suggest that, then we can then have a copy in front of us.
That sounds like a good idea.
Okay?
Dan,
Yep.
Margaret, are you okay with
I'm
that?
good with that.
Are you ready then to take a motion and vote on the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to accept consent agenda items 4A through 4D.
Second?
Motion and second, any further conversation?
Would you want to put a statement based upon what we just discussed? So that somebody that might have just tuned in doesn't misconstrue the slight amendment?
We will be back to this item.
Okay, so
Before the
abeyance
meeting
of
goes.
this is removed.
Well, I would suggest that the consent agenda just shows the matrix. It doesn't
Right.
reflect
Okay.
agreement, acquiescence, or anything with regards to the contract. It's just the matrix is just one of the documents in there.
So
Right,
we
it'd
make
just
a
be brought
statement
up
of
during
exclusion.
supervisor,
Yeah, well, we can bring up in
comments.
district council or supervisor comments on,
Okay.
we can add that.
Okay, fine.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
4-0, thank you very much. Discussion item, draft of proposed 2017 budget, that's number 5. Cal,
You don't know that yet.
Stephen's on his way.
Stephen's on his way.
Yes, can we
That's what I
push
was
that
gonna
back till he gets here?
I think
Certainly.
we can and should. Let's go then to,
How about the thing that April sent us late today?
I'm sorry, which one do you want?
That thing that April sent us
You
late
wanna do
today?
the walk-on?
That needed to do the walk-on?
The change order?
Needed immediate
I think
action?
that's what Mr. Newbauer is referring to.
Okay, would that be okay to do that one now?
Sure. So I apologize for bringing a walk-on. What we had discovered is that the contractor that we had hired to do the pipe cleaning for the gateway pipes relative to the road turnover project was unable to get us into their schedule. Was that the reason why? Yeah. So based on our road turnover schedule, they've backed out. They could no longer fit us in. So we were scrambling within staff in the engineer's office trying to figure out what we could do. And we currently have a company in Metower Environmental that we just signed on to clean the pipes, the storm pipes over in Pelican. And so far, they've been doing a good job, and they're happy over there. And we had a conversation with Mr. Geppert and explained to him that we are under time constraints. And he was gracious enough to say, well, okay, we can divert our contractor over to your area to do what we need to do for the road project. And when we attended the meeting with the county attorney's office, it was discovered, correct me if I'm wrong, it was discovered that we also need to video those pipes so we can show the county that these pipes are clean. So not only do we need to clean the pipes, we also need to video them. We had got the prior contractor approved back in March, I believe it, I can't remember exactly when it was.
March 17th,
Yes, and for the $37,000+, and Met Tower has agreed to do, yeah, it was sewer viewer. Met Tower has agreed to do the cleaning and the video for us within those approved budget amounts of the $37,000. So what we're doing today is basically reapproving the budget appropriation that's already there, and the how we're going to do it is just we're adding a scope to the existing contract with Met Tower.
Thank you. Have you made arrangements to have this $37,000 charged to 01 road turnover?
It is currently budgeted in, yes, it's in the 001546 account. Yes, that is I believe that is the road turnover project.
Okay, I don't want to charge the Pelican Preserve.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and Mr. Chairman, part of the communications
I
we've
doubt
had
that
is
Mr. Geppert would approve that.
And part of the communications we've had is that there'd be a simple amendment to the existing Met Tower contract, which is for Pelican Preserve, adding the scope of services for the Gateway project and noting that that would be funded by the 001 fund, so that it's clear on its face. We've already had those communications.
Had any monies been paid to the previous?
No, he hadn't even started yet.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure of that.
Pam, you okay? No. Here. All right, no further questions. May I have a motion to approve this item?
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
4-0. Thank you very much, April. Okay, now, are we ready to discuss 5B?
Oh, that's me.
That's you.
Okay, 5B is we are asking approval to repair some significant washouts on Lake 128. We looked at this. This is kind of tricky. They're really, really bad. Elle and I have been over there. The engineers have been over there. We've had 2 contractors look at it. And because they're so significant, we felt that this was the better option because they're so steep that where they're at, it's really, really steep. And so we figured between the engineers that because of that the extreme armor system would be the best option. And so what we're asking for is approval. This lake is not on that priority list for erosion because it didn't rank there, but it does have these significant washouts that are really quite dangerous. There is one behind a home that has one of those cascading waterfalls over their pool, and staff and the engineers agree that we're probably going to have to pay close attention to that, and it may take some additional sod in the upcoming years, once a year or something to replace that, because the chemicals overflow is going to kill the sod, which is going to expose the Armor Max that's going to be under there to level out the ground. So we are going to have to pay close attention to that and deal with that on an ongoing basis. But this is what we're asking for is the $14,927. I believe it's like 4 or 5 home sites that we're going to stretch behind. And because of how steep the washouts are, I mean, it is a non-compliant issue. And so we wanted to try to take the money that we have right now for the plant replanting program that we kind of have on hold because of the landscaping master plan, and divert some of that budget over to this washout problem and fix that.
Ladies and gentlemen of the board, do you have questions? Ma'am?
How did this get missed? How something that's in this condition didn't happen? I have 2 questions. Something like this didn't get missed, and it didn't happen overnight. So how did it get missed?
I can't answer as far back retrospectively how it got missed. However, I do know in the discussions that I've been involved in that we were out there last year, and last year they were not nearly as significant. So we had some progression pictures, and Elle was on vacation when I prepared this packet, but just within 12 months. they really, really got extreme.
Actually, I want 3 questions. Who discovered it? The significance in 12 months?
I know one or two of the neighbors have been contacting us regarding the issues.
Okay. And the third question is, this thing, the concern regarding the chemical situation from the pool. Why wouldn't there be some type of diversion system, PVC piping, et cetera, that instead would handle that, rather than, again, I can foresee the sod thing and we trying to catch up with individual houses within a community of how many doors, et cetera, becomes almost a very unique situation. That talk about not being able to manage something, that's almost not manageable. So, isn't there a simple way, while we're doing the construction, to put in some type of PVC diverter, even if it was also, by the way, in conjunction with the fact that this house have downspouts, gutters, which we always find are problems. So, in line with that, since we're having all the rest of the folk pay for, nothing personal against these people at all, for this individual house, why isn't it part of our permit criteria manual that when we have something like this, that there has to be some give and take? The give by the people has to be that they have to have some type of way of better diverting or directing their water discharge from the roof. And we then are responsible for, yes, to maintain the lake, et cetera, et cetera. This has got to be something that's done together, not as something that the neighbors are reporting to us.
Are you finished?
Yeah.
Questions or suggestions, please?
I would like to, you said that these are chemicals that are coming from the pool, because the pool is overflowing out of their pool area?
Not on all of the washouts. There is one house there that that's included in this proposal to fix, which is where we're going to repair it, is behind that cascading pool. And the way that it looks to me is that it overflows and the chemicals come out. It's going to kill the sod. As far as the engineering question, as far as what could be a permanent fix for that, that's outside of the scope. And as far as your question on what we're doing now in the development phase, that's also out of my scope. Is that something that you can answer, Tyler?
Well, I was looking at him, if you watch my eyes, I was looking straight at him.
Just because you're a new father, that doesn't mean you're off the hook.
But by the way,
Congratulations, by the way.
Thanks, sir.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So
Now-
for the
now
record.
answers, please.
All right, so for the record, Tyler Wainwright. There were a couple of questions in there. One is there a way to divert the pool overflow somewhere else? We can certainly look into that and see if there's a better way we can do it.
Okay, makes sense. I mean,
That's-
they're moving dirt and et cetera, what better time?
Yes, sir, we can look into that at the same time we're out there and see if there's a better way it can be done.
Okay.
So I guess, do we need to approve this $14,000?
If we're going
The
to
repairs
make
would be-
these repairs, which our operations managers told us are significant, then I guess we're gonna have to do that. May I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept this proposal.
I'll second.
Motion and second. All in favor say aye.
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 By the way, Tyler, you're in full support of this. Gotta have her back, you know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. I guess we can handle it under your threshold. If we are talking about adding additional scope to it, and potentially doing something with that drain, I guess funding-wise, we can address that. I'm not sure how, but
Don't be afraid to
discuss
ask
it with
the
the contractor.
homeowner to help out on this.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, I
Right.
thought that we were in that direction, that some type of downspouts and piping, and that was all supposed to be part of, we don't wanna come back in another 5 years and take all these people's money to keep doing this stuff, you know?
Yes, sir.
Thank
This
you.
is in Cypress Point, I believe. I'm still learning the geography, but it's retrospectively, we're doing better at these preventative issues, but we still have these full issues to deal with.
I just wanted to ask, Tony, how should we approach the homeowner? What would be?
Well, I'm trying to get looking at the photos and reading the report and listening to April, trying to get a handle as to how far away from the district's lake maintenance easement or water management facility, the pond, where's the pools located? I mean, does the water overflow go onto their lawn?
It's just like a sheet, it's just.
So it goes onto their lawn until it hits the lake maintenance easement, and then it hits, so it's killing their grass too, obviously, as
Yes.
it goes along. We have our district rule that says people cannot introduce items into the district surface water management facility without our approval. But we don't have any fining authority, we don't have any lien authority. Our only authority is to sue the people and get an injunction. So that's really not a remedy that's, it's saved for the most extreme circumstances. We've also talked in the past that to the extent that you have certain property owners that engage in activities that result in extraordinary efforts on the part of the district, that we can specially assess those people and enhance the amount to pay for repairs attributable to their activities that benefits their property. We've had this conversation before. So I think that might be the conversation to have with the property owners. Listen, unfortunately, the cost of this project is spread among everybody in Gateway. Your particular pool is causing this problem. Would you be willing to, number one, if they have downspouts, pipe it to a bubbler system, or if not, ask if they'd help contribute? But that might be the first conversation. That's just a suggestion, unless April or Cal have. But legally, it's not easy to force them to do that.
But they can be special assessed?
I believe you can, if they, engage in additional activities because of their, additional repair activities caused by their activities, which benefit them particularly and peculiarly, then we have the ability to do that, in my opinion, yes.
Because I'm wondering if we fix it and they're still doing the same thing, that's just gonna be money down the drain. Like, how can we get around that?
Yeah, I think part of that is that conversation with them about, hey, here's what you're doing, you may not realize it, we have a proposal to do this drain system, if you pay from your house to our easement, we'll pay for the rest to go into the lake.
Well, and plus, when we were out there on site discussing it, that's where we thought that it's going to be imperative that we monitor it, and we'll likely have to do some sod replacement, which will be minimal cost, in order to fix the bigger, investment that we've made to fix the whole slope of the pond.
But the sod investment too should only be our sod in the lake maintenance easement. And if they've got it, so here's the question, which was great that Pam just brought up. This gets back to my thing about communication again. Who is gonna be the person that's tasked, another tough one to pronounce, to actually go
peculiarly.
speak with that owner? I don't wanna send them just one of these demanding letter type things, I think it's somebody's gotta go and kind of, we need to sit down and talk about this.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe an explanation of how much money is gonna be spent repairing the lake bank,
That's
and that
perfect.
they need to be part of the solution.
Yeah,
So,
Ellen and I
April,
have
when are
had
you gonna-
conversations with the neighbors out there.
Okay.
There you go. Perfect. That's it.
Okay, so in respect of Stephen's time, he just got here, I don't know his schedule, do we want to bump back to Stephen's, budget draft?
Well, we've got a motion.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
We have a motion and a second. May I have a vote
Should
Aye.
we,
on these, on this
should we
item?
give an extra $1,000 or $2,000 leeway so that April doesn't have to bother coming back regarding this drainage thing?
Sure, consider it.
Not to exceed,
Yeah,
Plus
not
2
to
grand,
exceed.
okay, not to exceed 16,000.
I'll amend my motion.
And a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, great, thank you.
You've got it. The budget may take us a little bit of time, so I'd like to call a 10-minute recess before we start.
So how you doing, young man? Okay, so they can go to the neighbors and say, listen, you know what your other neighbor's doing? They're costing you money. They're costing you money.
That's a good point.
You know?
That's a good point.
I mean, that's crazy.
Yes, sir.
And if we could,
What I can say is that you are, like I said,
Intercept it. I agree. You know, assuming the property line is here, assuming that in there, we have our lake maintenance here, you could do some intercept. Catch it and divert it.
and you could interface
We,
the three neighbors all together.
I'll,